security agencies have their hands full as Nigeria struggles to get the grip of the insecurity situation.
Banditry, kidnapping and the insurgency in Nigeria's northeast are some of the most pressing security challenges needing attention. But just recently, President Muhammadu Buhari ordered a rejig of Nigeria's security strategy to enable the country better handle the issue and put an end to wanton killings.
All right, joining us now via Skype from Abuja, Security Risk Management Specialist and Managing Director, Beacon Consulting Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu. Dr. Adamu, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Great. We have talked about issues of insecurity for so many times, and over the past years, it's been on the front burner. At a time in 2019, it looks like we were going to forget about Boko Haram and keep them behind in the nearest future. But with recent development, it seemed not to be so, especially when we hear of the U.S. Sending signals to Nigeria that Al-Qaeda was infiltrating the northwestern part of Nigeria. Do you think the Nigerian security agencies are overwhelmed with all of these?
Well, they appear to be, for the simple reason that the issues are increasing. The death figures are rising, the new security challenges are coming up. So that's what it appears to be. If you talk to them, they give you the indication that it is not necessarily their fault. The root causes of the challenges, the security challenges are yet to be addressed. Things like poverty, the structural imbalances within the system that breeds hatred, anger among citizens. And then, of course, recently the actions of some politicians. Two former presidential candidates are leading what I would call, protest or revolutions. And then, of course, the media outburst by one former presidential candidate as well. So those are the kind of narratives you hear from the security agencies. They're doing their best, but it appears the politicians are not necessarily addressing the root causes of the security challenges.
But if you look at, so if you would like to suggest, of course, this is a discussion that has gone on for far too long. What steps do you think the government can actually take right now, either drastic, to see that this actually comes to an end in the Northwest?
As far as I'm concerned, the Buhari administration has the toolkit to address this. In December 2019, it launched what it called the Revised National Security Strategy 2019. And it was a promise to Nigerians to democratize security. And what that meant is that the current state-centric approach to security, where everything is concentrated more or less at the federal level, and only the rich, quote unquote, would have access to security, will change. That promise was to change the state-centric approach to a more citizen-centered approach. Unfortunately, from December to August now, we have not seen the real implementation of that document. So I think the toolkit is there. The question to ask, and I would urge you journalists to approach the Office of the National Security Advisor and ask him questions regarding the framework for the implementation of that revised national security strategy, because that's the way to go. If you and I as Nigerians feel that the security is working for us, if you go to my village and I know that if I have a need for security, there would be security provision, then I'm destined to provide the necessary information as well as support whatever security initiative by government. But as long as there is a perception that security is only for the rich or the have, then it's likely that unfortunately this situation will continue. So the toolkit is there. The challenge is how to implement that toolkit. And I think with the current level of insecurity in the country, that's the way to go. Start implementing that revised National Security Strategy 2019.
All right, let's talk about the issue of weapons and equipment to fight. Recently, it was headlined a few days ago, late last week, on that superpowers across the world are refusing to sell weapons to Nigeria. We know that Nigeria had a weapons manufacturing industry in the past, and all of that. Now, how is this compounding the situation and the fight against insecurity?
Very much so. Without the required equipment, our security forces, frankly, cannot do much. And unfortunately, it appears that as a country, we have not really understood the international weapons market, as it were, if I'll call it that. If you're going to that market, then you need to play by the books, as it were. If you are going to the US market, their mantra is democratic principles. And we are not yet playing those democratic principles. I would refer us to a report written in September 2019 by Agnes Callamand, the UN Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial killings. She came to Nigeria over accusations of extrajudicial killings by security agencies. And she wrote, a very interesting report where she looked at our existing laws and indicated portions of those laws that were not, quote unquote, in tandem with our democratic principles. Now, that is what the US government would look at. If they give us weapons, what is the likelihood that those weapons will be turned to be used against innocent citizens? And for as long as there are evidences that our security agencies are killing people extrajudicially, then we're not likely to get weapons from the US. However, if we move to places like Russia or China or some other former Soviet countries, then the likelihood is that we are going to get weapons, but at the detriment of our relationship with the US. So that's what I mean. How are we playing this diplomatic game that would allow us to acquire the weapons, but at the same time live up to the expectations of the international community? I don't think we're doing well in that regard. It is not to sit down and complain that we're not getting weapons, but it's to deploy our intelligence capabilities, our diplomatic powers, to now understand that market and then to obtain that market. But the long-term goal, I think, would be to develop a local weapons manufacturing industry that would meet the demands of our various security agencies. Anything short than that, we're just kidding with ourselves.
All right.
One of the questions I'd like to ask you is, while the government seems to be combating insurgency, there is something else, conspiracy theory, which was what we had last week, from some persons that tried to talk about the underlying factors or the things fueling insecurity. What should the people be believing right now? Because there seems to be a lack of trust between the people and the government.
Unfortunately, the people will believe what they are seeing, and what they are seeing is, people dying in different parts of the country. So that is foiling the conspiracy theories, unfortunately. But beyond that, we as Nigerians must realize that this is the only country we have. And so we must use legal means at our disposal to put pressure on government. And when I say government, I mean at all levels, the federal, the state, and to an extent at the local government level. At the same time, we should also consider the three branches of government: the role of the executive arm, the role of the legislature, as well as the judicial arm in this. So I think as a country, we should put all of these levels and branches of government, into consideration, so that we demand responsiveness and responsibility towards the implementation of the cardinal role of governance, which is the protection of lives and property.
All right. The notion that, the notion of fifth columnist within the system has been on for a while. Even former President Goodluck Jonathan said that there were Boko Haram elements within the security agencies. How does this compound the issue that we have on our hands right now in Nigeria?
Yes, Mike, globally, security, especially national security, is unfortunately, even though we don't like to admit this, it's political. I mean, look at the American system. The persons that are appointed to lead security organizations, to an extent, would have the loyalty of the political party that is in power, or sometimes even the presidency. So this is not different in Nigeria. Now, whatever kind of conspiracy theories or fifth columnists are in existence, the likelihood is that in the case of Nigeria, what is driving them is corruption. I make bold to say that there is no industry currently, perhaps maybe only COVID-19 is seeing more funding than the security industry, as it were, in Nigeria. So imagine a situation where you have corruption at the very highest level in the country, and then you have an industry like security that money is being pumped into. And unfortunately, we do not have a transparent process of monitoring how that money is being spent. None of, and I make bold to say this, none of the security agencies, 27 of them, has a transparent monitoring and evaluation mechanism that you and I can see, okay, this amount of money was budgeted at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, how was that money used? So basically, the fifth columnist suggestion would be high, because these security agencies are very easy avenues for siphoning government money, because frankly, there is no way of measuring how that money was spent. If you raise a question regarding security department in Nigeria, the response you are likely to get is that this is a national security matter. So proper auditing, proper monitoring and evaluation functions are missing in those security agencies. So yes, fifth columnists are likely to exist. And I mean, the simple and easiest way to determine this is you have an insurgency in the Northeast that has been ongoing for 11 years, despite the amount of money that has been spent. So what better way to explain this than the fact that fifth columnists are happy because this is a channel, frankly, for monies to be misappropriated.
But looking at all this, for 11 years, we're still yet to, of course, be able to put to a standstill insecurity, especially Boko Haram. If you'd like to talk to us about the underlying factors, the underlying issues here, and how do you think the government can actually, of course, tackle this, because it's peculiar to various regions?
Yeah, it's peculiar, but frankly, there are commonalities in almost all the hotspots. So a high poverty rate, illiteracy at a very high rate, and then of course the effects of climate change. Another one is the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. The figures are mind-boggling, honestly, given the situation in Nigeria, and it's mind-boggling as well that despite several international recommendations for Nigeria to have a commission that would mop up this small arms and light weapons, we're yet to set up that commission. Almost all the West African countries, I think, except probably Nigeria, and I'm not sure, either Gambia or Equatorial Guinea, are the ones that are yet to have that commission. The other one, unfortunately, is our porous borders. But I'm very happy to note that just last week, Mr. President asked our service chiefs to go to Niger, and I think they met with the government in Niger in a bid to increase border security. You're aware that there is an ongoing security force operations around the border, but frankly, it has not helped the situation. Our borders are still porous. Weapons, terrorists are still crisscrossing the borders. Attacks are ongoing between, the borders between Nigeria and Niger, Nigeria and Chad, as well as Nigeria and Cameroon. So all of these factors together are the underlying factors. But I think the biggest one that we need to tackle almost immediately is the perception of what I would call marginalization that is driving anger and hatred among some citizens of Nigeria. And it is this anger and hatred that is allowing, we talked about fifth column earlier on, so where you have anger and hatred or perception of marginalization, it's very easy to recruit and use people to further the goals of those who want insecurity to persist in the country.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me, Mike, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Stay safe.